So last night I got hit with this video from Charlie Morgan. Now I've seen some of Charlie's videos before. They're really, really good. And this one piqued my interest, obviously good title, but the kind of the relaxed style of the thumbnail. And I quite enjoyed the video itself. Seems to be becoming a bit more of a trend, these more relaxed style videos, which I think is great. But I wanted to share an alternative path on the plan that he outlines in this video. Okay, you can go check this video out. You can go find it on his channel. But in a nutshell, right? Here's what he's saying: find a group of people over 30,000. That's your niche, right? Figure out a common problem amongst a large number of the people in that market. Find a way to alleviate the pain. The solution that you create to alleviate the pain is essentially the creation of value, and the creation of value, when exchanged with somebody, ultimately creates money, right? That's it in a nutshell, kind of, business fundamentals 101. Okay. What I think most people are going to think when they see this video and when they hear this plan is go out and find, a random group of 30,000 plus people. Then you've got to go figure out some, common problem with, a ton of market research, et cetera, et cetera. Then you've got to go and actually find a solution and probably do the work for them for free. And then start the process of marketing and selling to kind of duplicate that solution. At that point, you're, creating value at scale, which ultimately leads to money. Okay. What I want to present you is a bit of an alternative path, but then there's going to be a bit of a twist at the end that ties into what Charlie says. Okay. So let's walk through this, and then hopefully this will illuminate a slightly different path or a different perspective that you might be able to go and implement. Okay. So this path for me, when I got started, in the typical sense, would have been quite challenging, right? Like I was working a full-time corporate job. I was restructuring multi-billion-dollar companies in New York, and I was already working 80 hours plus per week. So I had very limited capacity to go and, extensively develop all of these elements. So I want to tell you what I did, and then I'm going to tie it into what Charlie's talking about here. Okay. So here's the alternative path. I solved a problem for myself and I achieved a cool result. And then I leveraged that cool result and compounded that into another one, into another one, into another one. Okay. Now that sounds a little bit high level, but I'm going to walk you through it. All right. So like I said, rewind the clock to 2017. I'm working in New York, and my time there, I live in Australia now, was coming to an end, and I wanted to come back home, but I didn't want to keep doing the job. Right. So I'm already working these crazy hours, and I've got such limited time. Right. I couldn't be on social media because of my job. My job dealt with high profile business cases, so I couldn't be on social media. Right. So here's what I started doing. I started anonymously blogging and recommending affiliate products. This was in the internet marketing space. So I started reading books, ones I liked, I recommended. I'd go and buy something, I'd go through it, I started recommending it, right? This is how I made my first 20 grand online, okay? Then what I did with this experience, right? This isn't some huge, crazy result, right? Like we're not talking about incredibly complicated stuff like how do you make a certain person $1 million, right? Or how do you help someone lose 100 pounds? Or like they're not these huge. This isn't a huge result. It's a pretty small result. I was like, hey, look, this is how I made my first 20 grand, and this is how I made it working 80 hours per week, and I did it anonymously. Right? Because I couldn't be on social media, so I did it with a blog anonymously. So because of these parameters and these limitations, even though the result was quite small, it became quite an attractive thing for a lot of people. And that's how I started building my personal brand, and that's how I started building my audience. And I still couldn't be public with it, so I did it behind the scenes inside a little Facebook group. I grew it with one tiny link on my Facebook profile and networking in the DMs to get a few people in there. Then the algorithm picked it up, and it started growing from there. Okay, so here's what happened there. Here's the cool part, right? Once I started sharing this and people started coming and listening to what I was doing with this blog, I started expanding my implementation of the affiliate business into different strategies, into different affiliate offers. And then I kept reporting it back, right? I was able to win a bunch of awards and I became a leader in the affiliate space. Okay. Now, when you do anything for long enough and you do it well and you get a lot of results, naturally demand amongst the people who follow you will be created. And that's exactly what happened. I didn't even have to push it in terms of like CTAs or calls to action or anything like that, right? I had so many people reaching out saying, hey, can you help me? And so I created a coaching offer off the back of all the stuff that I'd done here. All the results that I generated up until this point, I created a coaching program from that. That made $1 million in its first 13 months. And this wasn't one of these like 10K programs. This was like $1,500, $2,000, and it was just hosted in a Facebook group with a course alongside it, and we did a weekly call. But because I'd been doing this for so long and had built up so much credibility and authority, this became the next natural thing. Okay. When I did this with one offer in 13 months, made $1 million, my mind was just blown. And I was like, holy shit. This is something that I learned in the last few years. And I was able to package it up, put up a sales funnel, and pull in $1 million, right? In just over a year from nothing, from air. That like blew my mind. And that then sent me down the rabbit hole of learning the ins and outs of the power of being able to package up some form of knowledge, some form of expertise, some form of experience, some form of transformation to generate cash and build wealth with one killer offer, right? And that's exactly what I do in my business now. I have an inner circle where I work personally with my clients on exactly that. We help them build that one killer offer, and they build their brand, they build their business around that. And it's all about packaging up specific knowledge, expertise, experience that they've got in a way that's attractive to the market. Okay. So why am I telling you all of this? Well, one, I think when people hear this advice, it's awesome advice. It 1000% makes sense, but people will be prone to overcomplicating it and making it seem and feel bigger than it actually is. I wanted to present an alternative path where you can go out and do something, cool, but not huge. Then you can roll one thing into another. Do I ultimately think that this is a more direct, if you've got all the time, all the resources, all the capacity, and all the knowledge, do I think this is a more direct path to bigger money? Yes. But when I started, I only had a little bit of time here and there. So I couldn't go and do this in the truest form. So I had to find another way. Okay. And so hopefully that shows you that you can start with something small and you can compound it and you can compound it and you can compound it into bigger and bigger and bigger things. And if you go and look at a lot of the people online who are selling stuff, this is what they've done. They've achieved something for themselves, a result. Then they've leveraged that. That's rolled into another thing, into another thing, into another thing. If you go and look at that frame, you're going to see there's a lot of people out there. Okay. Now let's just tie this all together. All right. Skip that. We've already talked about that. One more point. Each step you gain, you carry forward more experience, more credibility, more audience, more cash, more resources. Okay. So each time you layer these, each time you go from here to here to here to whatever comes next, you've got more experience. You've got more credibility with the people that you've helped, more results. You've got a bigger audience. You've got more cash behind you. You've got all different types of resources. And so what that means is each time you compound, you've got more power, you've got more control, you've got more influence over the outcome because you've got a more experienced and more robust toolkit to support you. Okay, so that's that's the path. That's the path I followed, and I wanted to provide that as kind of an alternative or as a simplified version of what Charlie talks about in his video. Okay, now here's the thing, right? If you're paying attention, what I did originally is exactly what he said up here, and go watch the video for full context. I just did it in a much simpler, kind of more, micro way, right? I started a blog and recommended affiliate products. That's exactly what he's saying to do, right? I was talking about internet marketing type products. That's a niche, right? Those people have problems and I presented them with a solution, right? And then I provided my affiliate link and that's how the value was exchanged and money was ultimately created. Okay. So fundamentally, it's the same concept, but when I watched this video, I thought this is awesome, except most people are going to massively overcomplicate this. Most people are going to think they need to do these big market research studies. Then they're going to have to talk to all these people. Then they're going to have to, test out a bunch of solutions and it becomes a lot pretty quickly for a relatively simple concept. Okay. So I just wanted to share my story with you and the path that I followed, which allowed me to get rolling when life presented me with pretty significant parameters. Okay. So hopefully anybody that sees this, if you've seen the original video, hopefully that presents you with a slightly alternative option, or at least a simplified path, or a different path that might set off a couple of light bulbs for you. Really enjoyed the original video. Love this style that Charlie's putting out, and just wanted to share my 2 cents on it. Appreciate you hanging out with me.